Welcome, welcome to my ex dirty secrets.
The knock came just after midnight. 3 sharp, deliberate taps, each one slicing through the hum of rain against the windows like a pulse I couldn't ignore. I remember freezing mid-step in the hallway, a glass of wine trembling in my hand, its reflection catching the faint light from the living room. It wasn't the kind of knock that belonged to a stranger. It was too certain, too familiar. When I opened the door, I saw her. Mia, Ethan's sister. Her hair was plastered to her face, soaked through from the storm. Mascara streaked down her cheeks, and her eyes, those same gray eyes that mirrored his, looked wild, searching, almost haunted. "Can I come in?" she asked softly, her voice splintering on the last word. For a moment I couldn't move. 2 months since the divorce, and I'd barely managed to stop shaking when I saw his name on bills or old messages. Let alone see her. The woman who used to call me her sister too. I stepped aside wordlessly. She walked in, dripping rainwater onto the hardwood floors, her thin sweater clinging to her skin. She wrapped her arms around herself, as if the chill wasn't just from the weather. "You still keep it cold in here," she murmured, glancing around at the dim living room. The place looked almost untouched, like I hadn't been living in it at all. "Some things never change," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. But she just looked at me, and for a second I thought I saw guilt flicker behind her eyes. "What are you doing here, Mia?" asked finally. "You shouldn't be here." She hesitated, then said quietly, "It's about Ethan." The name hit me like a punch to the ribs. Ethan. The man who'd made me believe in forever and then ripped it apart piece by piece. I swallowed hard. "What about him?" Mia's lips trembled. "He's missing." The room tilted slightly, and the sound of rain grew louder, like it wanted to drown the silence that followed. I blinked at her, certain I'd misheard. "What?" "He hasn't been answering his phone for 3 days," she said. "He didn't show up to work. His neighbor found his car still in the driveway, lights on in the house. I went there this morning and his phone was on the counter, dead. But his wallet's gone. His coat's gone." A pulse of dread tightened in my chest. "You're telling me he disappeared?" "I don't know what else to call it," she whispered. "And I think..." She looked down, biting her lip until it bled. "I think it has something to do with you." The words hung between us, sharp as glass. I laughed. Bitter, hollow, tired. "Me? Why would I have anything to do with this?" She didn't answer immediately. Her gaze moved toward the framed photo on the wall, Ethan and me on our wedding day, both smiling like fools who had no idea what was coming. "You told me once," she said quietly, "that sometimes love doesn't die, it just changes shape. Maybe his love changed into something darker." I set my glass down before my hand could betray how much it shook. "You think he hurt himself?" She hesitated. "I don't know. I found something in his house." "What do you mean, found something?" She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was damp around the edges but intact. She placed it on the table between us. My name was written across it, in Ethan's handwriting. For a long moment, neither of us breathed. I reached for it slowly, fingertips brushing over the familiar loops and pressure of his pen. The last time I'd seen his handwriting was on the divorce papers. When I unfolded it, I half expected rage. Blame. Some cruel parting shot meant to reopen wounds. But instead it read, "Clara, I don't know if this is goodbye or just another mistake. I've been trying to make sense of what you did, what we did, but every answer only opens another wound. There's something you never knew, and I don't know if I should have told you. But Mia deserves to know. She always did. You said once that secrets don't destroy relationships. Silence does. Maybe this is me finally breaking mine." My throat tightened as I read it again and again, the words blurring through the sting in my eyes. "What did he mean?" I whispered. "What secret?" "That's what I came here to find out," Mia said, voice cracking. "You said you didn't know where he was when we talked last month. Were you telling the truth?" I looked up sharply. Of course I was. She didn't blink. Then why did he send me this 2 nights ago? She held out her phone. There was a screenshot, an email from Ethan. The subject line was blank. The message said only, "If anything happens to me, ask Clara about the night of June 14th. My heart stopped. June 14th. The night before the divorce was finalized. The night Ethan showed up at my apartment unannounced, drunk, desperate, and said he still loved me. The night I told him the truth, that I'd slept with someone else. But Mia couldn't know that. No one could. I don't know what he's talking about, I lied, forcing the words out through my tightening chest. Mia studied me for a long, unbearable moment. Then she said quietly, "You're lying." Her tone wasn't angry. It was sad. Defeated. Like she'd expected it. "I came here hoping you'd tell me everything," she said. "That maybe together we could figure out what happened. But I see now he was right." "Right about what?" "That you were both keeping something from me." The way she said it made my skin crawl. "What are you talking about?" She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Clara, please. If you know where he is or what he did, just tell me. Because whatever secret you two shared, it's not just about your marriage. It's about me." Froze. There was something in her eyes I hadn't noticed before. Fear, yes, but also guilt. Deep-buried guilt. "What do you mean about you?" asked slowly. Mia's lip trembled. She looked like she was about to speak, then stopped. Instead, she turned away, heading toward the door. "I shouldn't have come," she murmured. "I thought maybe you cared enough to help. But I guess I was wrong." "Mia, wait." But she was already pulling the door open, the storm wind howling in behind her. "Whatever happened that night," she said without looking back, "it didn't stay buried. And if Ethan's gone, maybe it's because of what you both did to me." Then she was gone, swallowed by the rain, the night closing around her like a secret refusing to die. I stood there, trembling, the letter still clenched in my hand. The last line echoed in my head until it didn't feel like an echo anymore, until it felt like truth. "Because of what you both did to me." And that's when I realized something I hadn't let myself think in months. That Ethan wasn't the only one keeping secrets. And maybe Mia wasn't the victim she wanted me to believe she was. I didn't sleep that night. The rain stopped sometime before dawn, leaving behind a silence that felt too heavy, too aware. Ethan's note sat on the table, its edges curling from where my fingers had gripped it too hard. I must have reread it a dozen times, searching for a clue, a name, anything to explain what he meant. "Ask Clara about the night of June 14th. The words played on a loop inside my skull. I kept seeing him standing in my doorway that night, soaked in whiskey and regret, eyes bloodshot but still so heartbreakingly familiar. He'd said he couldn't live without me. I'd said he already was. Then I told him the truth, about the affair, about my guilt, about how it was already over. Except it hadn't been over for him. And now, 2 months later, it wasn't over for me either. By the time morning came, I'd made up my mind. If Mia thought I was lying, fine. But if Ethan was truly gone, I needed to find him. Or at least understand why. The house. Ethan's old house sat at the edge of town, the kind of quiet suburban street where everything looked normal from the outside. But when I parked in the driveway, the first thing I noticed was the front door, unlocked. Inside, the air smelled stale, faintly of coffee and cologne. The lights were off, but sunlight filtered through the blinds, spilling across half-empty whiskey bottles, papers, and photos scattered across the living room floor. Photos of me. Our wedding. Our first vacation. My birthday dinner last year. All with one thing in common: they'd been torn in half. My half gone. My throat tightened as I moved deeper inside. Something felt off, not just empty, but interrupted, like he'd left in the middle of a storm that never ended. On the table near the couch was a folder. Inside were printed emails. My emails, ones I'd sent him before the divorce, apologizing, begging him to forgive me. He'd highlighted certain sentences. "I never meant for it to happen. You wouldn't understand. It was a mistake. A chill slid down my spine. He'd circled that last line 3 times. Then I saw it. Another letter sealed with Mia's name written on it. My pulse quickened. I hesitated only a second before tearing it open. Mia, you once told me secrets rot in silence. You were right. I've lived with one long enough. I forgave you for what happened between you and Clara. I even tried to pretend it was only her fault, but that was a lie I built to survive. The truth is, I'm the one who started it. I'm the one who crossed the line first. Tell Clara the affair wasn't her secret to keep. It was mine. My vision blurred. I sat down hard on the couch, the letter shaking in my hands. He started it. Started what? Then it hit me like ice water. The night of June 14th wasn't what I thought it was. It wasn't just my confession. It was his. Flashback. That night had started with anger and ended in chaos. Ethan had come over, drunk and restless, accusing me of destroying our marriage, of sleeping with someone to punish him. But somewhere between the yelling and the tears, he'd said something strange, something I hadn't understood until now. I only did it because you already had, he'd said. You made me believe I wasn't enough. I thought he was being cruel, trying to hurt me back. But maybe he wasn't talking about revenge. Maybe he was talking about guilt. And maybe Mia's trembling words last night, "It's about me," weren't a plea for help. Maybe they were a warning. The sister. By noon, I drove straight to Mia's apartment. The door was open. "Mia!" called out. No answer. Inside, her living room was dim, curtains drawn. On the table sat a coffee mug, half full, and beside it, my wedding photo. Not the torn one. Complete copy. When I turned it over, I saw something written on the back in Ethan's handwriting. She knew first. Froze. "Mia!" I shouted again, this time louder. That's when I saw her, standing in the doorway of her bedroom, eyes swollen, face pale. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Clara," she said softly. "You shouldn't be here." "You lied to me," I said, stepping forward. "You said Ethan was missing, that he'd left a note for me. But he left one for you too, didn't he?" Her eyes flickered. "You went to the house." "I had to. You told me he blamed me, but he didn't." "He blamed you. What happened between you two, Mia?" She flinched, and for the first time, I saw the truth unravel in her eyes. "You don't understand," she whispered. "He came to me first." "What?" "Before you two even got married," she said. "It was a mistake, one night long before you ever knew him like that. He said it didn't mean anything, and I believed him. But then he met you, and suddenly I was the secret he had to hide." The room tilted. My stomach churned. "You slept with him before I did." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I loved him first." I stepped back, shaking my head. "And you both kept it from me all this time." "He promised it was over," she said desperately. "He said you were his future. But then I saw how he looked at you, how he talked about you, and I couldn't handle it. So when your marriage started falling apart, and you called me crying about how distant he'd become, you seduced him again." Her silence was the only confirmation I needed. "He told me it was a mistake," she whispered. "But I knew. I could see it in his eyes. He still loved you. And that's what broke him." My breath came shallow. "So when he disappeared," she interrupted, her voice trembling. "He didn't disappear, Clara. He called me that night. He said he was coming to see you, to tell you everything. That he couldn't live with the guilt anymore." I felt my heart plummet. "The night of June 14th. She nodded, tears streaming. "He was supposed to meet me afterward. But he never came." The realization. The air between us thickened, charged with something darker than grief, truth. "Mia," I said slowly, "what did you do after he didn't show?" She blinked rapidly, avoiding my eyes. "I went looking for him." "Where?" "The cliffs," she whispered. "The same cliffs where Ethan and I had spent our first anniversary. The same cliffs where his abandoned car had been found 2 days later." My hand shook. You didn't. I tried to stop him, she cried suddenly, voice cracking. He was already there when I found him. He was standing at the edge, saying it was too late. He said he'd destroyed everything he ever loved. Me, you, all of it. Tears filled my eyes. What happened, Mia? She looked at me, hollow and broken. He slipped. The room went silent. I couldn't breathe. You're lying. She shook her head slowly. I wish I was. I stumbled back, shaking, trying to process it. Ethan was gone. Because of both of us. But as the shock settled, another thought crept in, slow, poisonous, undeniable. If she had truly tried to save him, why hadn't she told anyone? Why make me believe he'd simply vanished? I looked at her. She was trembling, but her eyes were dry now. Show me your hands, I said. What? Your hands, Mia. Show me. She hesitated, then held them up. There was a faint scar along her right palm, thin, pink, healed. From the rocks, she murmured, as if reading my thoughts. When I reached for him. But something inside me knew. It wasn't from reaching. It was from letting go. Twist. Weeks later, after the police confirmed the body they found at the base of the cliffs was Ethan's, the news reported it as an accident. But I knew better. And so did Mia. She came to the funeral wearing black, face serene, composed, offering condolences like a dutiful sister. But when our eyes met, her expression shifted, just for a moment, into something unreadable. That night, after everyone had gone, I walked to his grave. I placed a single white rose on the stone, then looked up to see her standing in the distance, watching. You killed him, I said quietly. Her lips parted, but she didn't deny it. He was never going to choose you, I said. She stepped closer. And he was never going to forgive you. For a long, quiet moment we stood there. Two women bound by the same man, the same betrayal, and the same unspoken truth. When she finally turned to leave, she said one last thing over her shoulder. Secrets rot in silence, Clara. You should know that better than anyone. And then she walked away, disappearing into the shadows like a ghost who had finally stopped pretending to be human. I stared after her until the wind carried away her scent, and for the first time since that night, I realized something awful. The secret hadn't died with Ethan. It was still alive, inside both of us. And sooner or later, one of us would bury the other with it. Then,